G'day guys, I'm Ragnark. Welcome to part 4 of my World of Warcraft beginner guide. So today we're going to talk about gear. So what is gear? Why is it important? Why are there so many different colours of gear that you get as you quest towards your maximum level? Well, first we'll talk about the different qualities of gear. They're represented by colours. First you got grey, which is the poorest quality. Then you got white, which is common. This you can usually buy from vendors. You've got green, which is uncommon. And these green's usually like the minimum of what you'll wear because it's got better stats on it, whereas white and grey have next to no stats. You've also got rare, which is better than green. Rare you usually get from harder content, and then of course you got purples. Purples is basically the ultimate piece of gear you can get, and it will have the best stats. You've also got legendaries, which are even higher than epics. However, these are very niche pieces of gear and are usually quest specific or profession specific, so they're not quite as important as you think. Alright, let's talk about grey gear for a second. Grey gear is usually sold to vendors as soon as you get it. It's very rare when you'll actually wear this gear. It'll just be stuff that you'll randomly loot from creatures as you kill them. However, every now and then you'll hold shift over it and notice it is actually an upgrade, or you're not wearing a pair of boots for example. So in this case, that's when you would use the grey gear, but in most cases you would just sell it. White gear is when you purchase it from vendors, so if you were a warrior and you needed a shield because you wanted to tank, and your abilities literally will say require a shield to use, you'll need to go and buy a shield from a shield vendor, and that's an acceptable time to use a white item. Green gear you'll usually get from quest rewards, so as you quest you'll get green gear quite frequently. And this is the gear that you'll mostly be wearing during your leveling journey. Every now and then you will get some blue gear for completing a quest chain, or if you do dungeons, killing bosses in dungeons drops blue gear as well. Blue gear is usually better than green gear. And then of course purple gear. Now every now and then you might see purples drop while you're leveling, but you probably won't see much of it until you hit max level. Once you hit max level, the goal is to get purple gear in all of your gear slots. So on my character, for example, pretty much all of my gear is purple. And my character has an item level, right? That's basically how powerful your character is. The higher this number, the more powerful your character typically. So the goal once you hit max level is to get this number as high as you possibly can, and that will increase the magnitude of your spells and attacks, as well as healing and tanking if you're doing those roles. So that's basically the point of gear. Now you notice these extra numbers on the gear like intellect, stamina, critical strike, haste, mastery. Well, in your character screen you can see these stats here and what you have. So the percentage means like how much percent do you have. For example, 24% is the chance I'll get a critical strike, right? And you can see how much critical strike I have there. I've got 1379. So if I wanted that critical strike chance to be higher, I'd be trying to get gear that had critical strike stats on it. As some gear doesn't actually have critical strike, like this piece of gear here, it just has haste and mastery. So if I didn't want crit and I wanted more haste to attack faster, or more mastery to increase the damage done by my demons, for example, I might prefer those stats over critical strike. But sometimes critical strike can increase the damage of your critical strikes as well, so depending on what class you play is what stats you want to aim for. Versatility is like a tanking stat. So it increases your damage, increases your healing, and decreases your damage taken. So some classes, even non-tanking classes, this is a great stat. And avoidance is like a secondary stat. When you get a piece of gear, there is a chance that you'll get a random extra stat like avoidance, or leech, or speed, and they're more bonus stats. They're not quite as essential. Your main stat is usually displayed here. For example, I'm a warlock, so my main stat will always be intellect as a warlock. And stamina is health. So the more stamina I have, the more health I have. Armor is also an additional stat, and most pieces of gear will have stamina and armor. So by default, the higher the item level on that piece of gear, the more health and armor it will give me as well. But there are also abilities and talents and traits that can also increase these further. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of where gear is, and hopefully you can start aiming to get that beautiful purple gear once you hit max level. And you could be lucky enough to see some of it before you even hit max level. If you're not sure what stats to go for, you can look up guides on Icy Veins or whatnot, or even just look in your character screen, and it'll tell you what your main stat should be. For example, if you're like a melee damage class, like a rogue, your main stat will be agility, because you want those fast melee attacks. However, if you're a paladin or a warrior, you want strength. You want those big, slow hitting, heavy attacks. So if you're not sure, open up your character screen and it'll tell you what stat you need to get. Another thing to be careful of is if you're an orc like me, for example, and your main stat's intellect, there's no point in me equipping something that gives me strength. It will be minimal benefit to me. Yeah, I might get the other two stats, but in most scenarios I would leave it alone. I'd only use intellect gear. You also get trinkets. Trinkets you don't normally need to worry about until you hit max level, but they will usually have additional abilities. So see this one, it says use, unleash a wave that crashes into your target. So that's something that you might want to have on your action bar, so you can use that additional ability to increase your damage. Usually you can macro these with your other abilities, so you can hit one button and it'll automatically use this when it's available. But I'll cover that in another guide. I'll also cover dungeons and raids in another guide as well, for those who are unsure what they are and how to get into those. But for the moment, I hope this guide helps you understand gear a little bit better and what to aim for as you quest and level up. And when you hit endgame, you can start reaching out for those amazing purple pieces of gear and those beautiful stat bonuses that come with them. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, so that way more people can see it. And if you want to see my future guides, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to look through the videos to look at any other guides that might interest you. My name's Raganak and I'll see you next time.